a written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
Good morning, everyone. It is the top of the hour. Let's try to get started on time. If you would rise if you're able, and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. All right, so welcome to the Exchange. I'm Tom Foster, President of the 2025 Board of Directors, and this meeting is audio and video recorded by the RCSC management and staff. Please be advised there is to be no recording of this meeting by any individuals. Take out your cell phones and electronic devices and check to ensure they're on silent mode, which you think by now I would remember that, but I'm glad they put that in the script so that at least I remember that way. Additionally, we do not tolerate verbal or physical abuse towards any member, any guest, visitor, employee, or staff member. Violators will be asked to leave the meeting. Now I'd like to introduce the Board of Directors, our timekeeper, and our management personnel. So on the board, Director Collins.
Hello, everyone.
Director Gray.
Good morning.
Director Brissett.
Good morning.
Now Secretary Keiss. He is taking over as Secretary of the Board. Thank you.
Good morning.
Vice President Nedesine.
Good morning, everybody.
Treasurer Borski.
Morning, everyone.
And Director Ruff.
Good morning. I'm glad you were able to fight for a parking spot this morning.
Our timekeeper will be Secretary Keiss. Our management individuals, and you may note that there's been some change in some of their titles here. Kevin McCurdy is Director of Finance.
Good morning.
Mike Whitbrood is Director of Facilities. Mike Diermeyer, Director of Operations and serving as our interim GM. Is Brian here today? Yeah, there he is. Hey, you got the good hat. Brian Duthu, Director of Golf. And then Marcia Johnson, who is our board coordinator.
Good morning.
I also want to recognize Alan Kleinhans, Carla Young, Miguel Jackson, and Doreen Rafferty, who serve as our audiovisual engineers. I hope you picked up a document off the back table. This is the list of topics that came up at the last meeting, as well as some things that are still open and being worked on, and we'll get to those in a minute. But this is an exchange meeting, and so one of the ideas here is that there be back and forth between the board and the membership. And so I thought I would let you know, just take a few minutes here, all the things that board members are involved in and management team members are involved in, so that if you're sending an email to somebody on the board or on management and you don't get an immediate response, it's probably because they're pretty much up to their eyebrows in some of these projects that I'm going to list here. So the first one, though, is a board of director. After the resignation of Connie Rickmeyer, we are continuing to look for additional individuals that might be interested in serving on the board. So if you find yourself one of those, please send a note to either Marcia Johnson or myself, and we'll get back to you about the procedure for perhaps joining the board. We are still looking for a general manager, and that job description is being rewritten. We hope to post that perhaps later this week or early next week. From time to time, salary has been an issue here. It may be again, but when that job description is posted, you'll probably see a range of salary on there. We would not disclose what we finally negotiate with someone, but you would see a range if that still is an interest to you. Director of Golf, we have received numerous resumes to replace Mr. Duthu, who is shortly headed for Florida. Kathy Lindfors, who is one of our senior leaders in HR, may begin some phone screening of those resumes later this week. So we are making progress on finding a replacement for the Director of Golf. And speaking of HR, Kevin McCurdy, Director of Finance, HR reports to him. He did have someone lined up for that and had sent out an offer letter. Unfortunately, the candidate refused that, and so we're a little bit back at stage one. So Kevin is working again for trying to find a manager of HR. Some of the other projects we're working on, Riverview maintenance. Mike Whiproot is coordinating that, working on bids for designs. And once we get that, we can move forward on contractors and the eventual construction of that facility. South Golf Course ADR compliance, Mike is also working on that one. There is also a project on the North Course, which Mike has received bids. That, I believe, will shortly go back to long-range planning. Website. So that's been something that's been going on for a bit. We are anticipating seeing something later this month that we can all play with and see if we can break it. So I don't know who gets the opportunity to try and break the site, but that's really the intent, is to try to test it and make sure that it works properly. So if you're good at walking by a computer and the computer fails, perhaps you might be interested in testing the website. Okay, IT project, Kevin McCurdy and Peter Orillo are working on, we are, and I'll probably get this wrong because I'm not an IT guy, but we are basically a server-based system right now. We're trying to move to the cloud. And while there would be a little bit of upfront money there, these folks have done a lot of work on what that might look like 2 or 3 years from now. And there does appear to be savings for our budget if we can move in the direction of the cloud rather than servers. So that is something that we'll be working on even later this week. Bylaws for the working group. So from the annual meeting, we set up this bylaws committee. Secretary Keiss is leading that charge with Director Gray and Vice President Nettesine and Director Ruff. All 4 of those have received some information from legal counsel about what their direction should be. The individuals serving on that committee, I believe, are all selected at this point, and they are now to the stage of looking at all of the member-submitted motions and how they will proceed with either talking with those individuals or addressing those motions. Yes, did I not say that? Well, it's a working group, sorry. Sun City Master Plan is something that's still at Long Range Planning Committee stage, but hopefully will shortly be a recommendation to the board. And after that point, move from the committee to the board and management. And then there is Maricopa County's 2040 comprehensive plan that some of the board members are involved with. So we're trying to affect what Sun City and other unincorporated areas are going to look like, but mainly Sun City. So I think those are most of the things I just wanted to mention to you. Again, it's a pretty busy situation, which does not mean to try to scare anybody off from serving on the board. Rather, it's an opportunity to really influence where Sun City is going to go in the future. So at this point, I wanted to turn this over to Vice President Nettesign, who has a couple slides that she wanted to run through to bring you up to speed with where we are on the Mountain View project.
Miguel. Okay, so what we're going to try and do at the exchange meetings is give you a Mountain View update so that you know where we're at, what we're doing, and how we're moving along. So currently, our progress is we finished visioning, we've done the presentation to the membership, we've got the engineering survey, we posted communications about the visioning everywhere. You can find it on YouTube, you can find links in social media. You can also find the hard copy books in each of the centers if you're somebody who prefers paper. And then the next step for us as the board of directors and Triarch is we begin our programming phase for our project. What we're doing next is we're going to take the input that you've given us over the last, I would say, 4 to 5 years, including the visioning, and we're going to identify all the club and member groups that may be impacted by our changes at Mountain View. And we're going to ask for your input through Triarch. So we're going to identify the groups. If your group is not identified from some unexpected oversight, and I will apologize in advance if it happens, we're going to try and make sure it doesn't. But if it does, please speak up and let us know. And then we're going to supply detailed usage data. It came up during the Mountain View presentation whether or not we had this. We do have detailed usage data that we're going to provide to Triarch to help them understand capacity and need based on capacity. And then we're going to outline required cost controls for the Mountain View project. We have a dollar amount that we pass for PIF project. We need to stay within that budget. So we have to make sure everything we do is brought back and reconciled against our budget, our available funds. We expect this to take approximately 2 to 4 weeks. Triarch's next steps is they're going to do actual programming, what they call their programming phase. And in their programming phase, they actually develop questions for the stakeholder interviews. They schedule and meet with and conduct all the required interviews for those stakeholder inputs. All clubs that are currently utilizing Mountain View, all clubs that have the potential to use Mountain View, and all members that might have input for Mountain View that have been identified, plus all management groups that would care about what goes into Mountain View. Think about IT, audiovisual, different things that management might need. The conceptual drawings for Mountain View are due at the completion of the stakeholder interviews, and we expect that to take 8 to 10 weeks is how long we anticipate that will take. What we need from the members is we need clubs to identify which club members will be involved in the stakeholder interviews. That's really important for the clubs. Identify now because many are heading home now. So we need to know if it's going to be virtual, hybrid, or in person. So identify who's going to be involved in those interviews as soon as possible, please. I also would like to ask the clubs to collect current data for potential usage. and needs. So if you see your club growing, say on average 10, 15%, think about what that means for the future and try and account for that as you do your interviews. Also, we would like to have club members attend the interviews as Triarch determines they're applicable. And I'm thinking about club members, the people who live around Mountain View. But it could also be somebody who comes from, say, Union Hills down to do something at Mountain View specifically. So we're being interested in that. And then we'll do non-club stakeholder interviews, as I said, as applicable. So the next step is the Triarch programming presentation to the membership. We'll get stakeholder input, and it influences the programming outcomes. So basically, everything we say, just like with visioning, everything you say counts, it matters. So it will have an input in what the outcome of the programming sessions are. We'll have conceptual drawings. We'll continue to watch alignment with budget. And we're talking about a timeline around August of 2025. The board will send a communication to the membership once the programming presentation is done, with a final decision regarding what will happen with what buildings at Mountain View. So when I say what will happen, we need to understand what our needs are before we make a decision what we're going to renovate or what we're going to build there. So we need to make sure that what the changes we make at the Mountain View site match what we need to do there, rather than decide what we need to build there or change and then kind of shoehorn people in. We don't want to do it that way this time. Once we have the conceptual drawings, the Mountain View renovation design phase will begin, and we will continue to move forward. We really need your help, because based on member input and discussion within the board itself, we have a clearly stated goal to keep the Mountain View project moving. I know many were concerned when we made the change with the general manager that this would again bring Mountain View to a screeching halt. We are committed to not do that. We're committed to keep moving forward in the right way. So we need active engagement from the stakeholders during the programming phase. As I said, we may need to do virtual meetings. We need to hybrid meetings. We need to make ourselves available over the summer months to help keep this moving forward. So I'm asking the members, when people reach out, and I know we all have things we do during the summer, I know particularly my family, we do a lot of things with the littles, because many of us have littles that we like to do things with in the summer when they're out of school. But we're asking that you can perhaps make the extra effort to make sure you make these meetings and provide your input. We'd like you to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. And we don't have a lot of followers right now. So if you guys, especially those of you that are big social media users, go follow us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, so that when we post things there, you can actually put things out on your Facebook social media groups. So we'd like to ask you to do that. We'd also like you to let us know your thoughts as the new information is communicated out. We're going to be putting it on Facebook, putting it on YouTube. You guys are going to be watching it. Please email us at boardofdirectors@suncitυaz.org so we know what your thoughts and feelings are. We may not answer everybody's email because we anticipate we will get a lot, but your thoughts and feelings matter and they will be taken into account. The other thing that I did not think to put in here, but I really would like, is we have a lot of tribal knowledge in Sun City. And I've already had 2 pieces of tribal knowledge specifically about Mountain View shared. One was from Mr. Nowakowski regarding some information to the parking lot. Another was from Ms. Ellison about the pools and orientation of pools. So what I would really like is that if you guys have tribal knowledge about Mountain View specifically, that you think may have gotten lost over the years, please feel free to share that, because we're collecting that information, and as we go forward and build, we're checking it off that we've accounted for it. So thank you very much, and thanks for listening. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Vice President Edesine.
Alan? So I just got asked what tribal knowledge is. I apologize. Tribal knowledge is the things that everybody knows about something that is not written down anywhere. So think about what you know about going to a specific place that you would share with somebody else, because nobody else, it's not written down anywhere for anybody to know. That's what tribal knowledge is. Thank you.
Who gets contacted about a club and the contact for a given club to be part of this?
Triarch will reach out. We're providing the names of the clubs. Triarch would reach out. If you specifically, Mary, you specifically would like to provide information, send an email to the board of directors, and we'll make sure that we incorporate that into what we do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Will any of these, I mean, this looks wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Will any of these meetings that are going to happen with everybody be video recording, so like we're snowbirds? I mean, sitting at.
Yes.
But they can't. Will some of them be recorded so we can look at what's going on, or will we just report?
We haven't actually determined how we're going to do this, but if it's a public, not like just meeting with, say, the pickleball club or something like that, if it's a larger group meeting, yes, it will be recorded.
Websites for rec centers and Triarch on Facebook and YouTube?
Do I know there? What we can do, Mr. Dermeyer, could we perhaps send an email blast with the website, with the links for our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, please?
Post it on the website?
No, we'll have to send an email blast today.
Can't post the link on our RCSC website?
There already is a link.
There is a link there, yeah. Yes. No, it's not easy to find, I agree.
I think other questions, you talked about the meetings with stakeholders. It was not clear to me, it sounded like they would be separate meetings for each of the stakeholders separately with their questions. And it wasn't clear to me that there would be a more like a forum or a town hall types of a meeting again. Can you clarify there? And finally, on one of those schedules, it said the final decision will be sent out, but it didn't sound like there was any forum again, large forum to communicate before a final decision. So I was just a little confused.
Okay, so the way we will communicate the final decision has not yet been determined. It depends on what the stakeholder meetings drive. And Triarch will determine the stakeholder meetings. I know they're wanting to speak with the individual clubs. I will have to follow up to ask if they're going to do member forums like they did in the past. They have been very good with that. So I would say that that's where the non-club members come in. And they may have forums for non-club members to be able to provide input. Okay.
I was wondering if today, when you send out that email blast, if this could be attached
You would like the presentation?
so that people can really get,
Absolutely. We can attach the presentation as a link, yes.
and then technology-wise, is there any way to have a live stream or like a Zoom?
We are absolutely working on that. The IT project that President Foster talked about, that we're meeting about later this week, that's a huge part of it, is enhancing our technology so, guys, we can actually live stream our meetings, which would be great. As a tech person, that gives me goosebumps. So, okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, let's take a few minutes to walk through the spreadsheet that was at the back of the room as far as concepts that came up at the last exchange and what may have transpired on addressing those issues. The first one was amend bylaws to allow motion for annual meeting, and that was really one of the member-submitted motions, and so that's been referred to the bylaws ad hoc working group, and they will be working on that very shortly. What work's going on at the Willow Creek Golf parking lot, that's scheduled to be done this coming summer. Pickleball courts at Mountain View going to be repaved. That is being done this month. I believe, Mr. Whiproot, is that correct?
Work's already underway. They've been working on it for a week. One more week, we should have the courts resealed.
Thank you. Players Club needs alternative performing areas. Well,
Mr. President,
Director Collins.
the Mountain View, that also included the tennis courts, correct?
There was a request that the tennis courts be addressed, and we are trying to move forward with that. We had some bids on that, so Mr. Whiproot is looking into trying to get that done as well. Okay. Players Club needs alternative performing areas. I understand that, perhaps a little bit ahead of time here, so that's will be under investigation as we go forward, but for the time being, that facility will still be there at Mountain View, and when we get to the point, if we get to the point that that is renovated or demolished and rebuilt, then we'll have to address this particular issue. Alternative cooling for the vintage vehicle, that's been on hold here or paused because Vintage Vehicle wanted to do some research on their own and then come back to facilities and compare notes. And so we're waiting for them to complete their analysis.
Mr. President?
Director Collins.
Yes, Vintage Vehicles wants to get in touch with, they want to have the right to bring in someone to finish their estimate. So that's something that has to be done through management to let them in. They can't.
You mean let access to the property?
Yes.
Okay, we can arrange that.
Thank you.
Okay, change the name from PAC to theater. Again, we'll get to that. We were going to name it the Director Collins Memorial Theater. He didn't like the memorial part, but we'll not to be facetious, but we will get to that issue. I mean, again, let's not get the cart before the horse here. We got a lot of work ahead of us, but we will get to that. Financials, so members can understand and read them. So we've referred that back to Director of Finance McCurdy and Treasurer Anita Borski, and they have told me to stand down, so I would do. They've not been particularly receptive to my comments on that, so that's okay. But they will be working through that shortly. Why were there conflicting meetings with the annual membership meeting? We did do some research on that and found that there was only one RCSC event scheduled, which was a Sun City Squares dance at Bell. So, I mean, there are so many events going on, it's sometimes hard to find a time when you're not going to conflict with something somewhere at some point. To have only one conflict there was probably amazing. So we'll do our best to not have conflicts in the future, but it's probably inevitable that there'll be something at some times. Can we make one of the doors at Sundial a handicap door with an automatic opening? And I think that's been referred back to the facilities department. They're looking into that possibility.
It's done.
Well, awesome.
It's done. Thank you.
I was not aware of that. Excellent. That's even better. Member Gene Totten had some multiple questions, and as I was alluding to earlier today, you know, we just can't get to everything as fast as people would like. We will try to respond to those, whether that's in person or via email, but we don't forget those. We do try to get to them. I quite honestly would say I get dozens and dozens of these emails, and unfortunately you fall behind in that queue, and I'll get to them, but it will take some time. And then footnotes on the financials, which are included in the annual audit financials. I don't think we made a decision on that, on monthly ones, Mr. McCurdy.
President Foster, no, we don't add footnotes to monthly financials. We have the management report to provide some color around the monthly financials, and then the official quote-unquote audited financials have 20 pages of footnotes.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that concludes the ones that we needed to touch on here. So we can move to the traditional member comment segment here. Always go back and get a number from the little dispenser back there. You get your 3 minutes. Secretary Keiss will be the timekeeper here. Complete your statement, no matter how many questions you have in it. We want you to finish that statement, and then, if possible, we'll try to respond to whatever questions you had during your 3-minute period. So, we're starting with number 0? Okay.
Yes, we are.
All right, so let's go ahead.
I don't know why I have 0, but I'm sure there's a reason. Evie Webb Swope, number 168514. I finally went to the Dale Webb Museum and absolutely delighted. It was great seeing how they were able to meld the dream into a vision, into the verbiage that needed to accompany it. And it was definitely worth the trip. Also, a couple of weeks ago, I attended my first annual meeting for Sun City. And somehow I feel like we disconnected from this vision, this absolute vision, starting out with nothing to where we are today. And even though I attend these meetings, I really am not sure what our vision is, who we're going to be, what that 30,000-foot level picture is going to look like in, say, 5 years. So I would just throw out a couple of recommendations. I would start working on the 2026 annual meeting right now, because an annual meeting is full of business mumbo jumbo and lots of facts and figures and legalese and all of that. But it's also an opportunity to share a vision. It's an opportunity to put our best foot forward in who we are. And I would start out appointing a committee. I don't know if it's the Next Gen or whomever it is, but those people who love to party, and put together an entertainment committee to entice people to come to the meeting. There should never be a question about a quorum, for heaven's sakes. And if part of their reasoning for having the entertainment is to put our president into a chicken outfit, then put him in a chicken outfit.
Second.
Mr. President, I would like you to cover that vision of what it is the board has, so we unite around this vision. Same way with our treasurer. If she's in a bunny rabbit costume, put together a PowerPoint presentation that shows us not only do we have a vision, we can pay for the vision. Does that make sense? Did you all watch the CBS?
Don't forget our secretary.
You want me to just disperse this? I got 32 seconds. I'm talking fast here. But the point is, if you watch CBS, $805 billion with a B dollars are available by 2030 going into active 55 plus communities. We got a long way to go. We got to have a vision. We need a reason to do all of this, and it has to be fun. We're here for fun.
Thank you. I now know why Director Collins did not volunteer to be a member of the executive group, because he didn't want to fit in the bunny costume, apparently.
Just one question.
Yes, sir.
All that money you said that is out there, if you find any place where there's grants or anything, please let us know in the foundation so we can apply for them, because we're having a real hard time finding the grants.
I would, well, thank you, Director Collins. And then I would say that we are working on, as I mentioned earlier, this master plan, which is just for our facilities. You know, we're not planning for Sun City itself. We're planning for the rec centers of Sun City. That is the only jurisdiction we have. So yes, we can perhaps outline some of that in the future, but we're in the midst right now of putting that plan together, and hopefully we'll be able to express that vision shortly. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think you're right on, ma'am. I think the annual meeting needs to be essentially a state of the corporation for us, so that people can come and see what's going on, and we can let them know where we are, what's going on, and what's happening. It needs to be just more than solving or asking member motions. Those are important and they need to be done, but at the same time, we need to let the membership know that maybe doesn't go to the exchanges or the board meetings all the time, where we are as a corporation. I think that's essential for us. I agree.
I'm probably not going to do the chicken costume thing, but...
See, this is the problem.
The bunny one is still available.
Thank you so much. Name and rec number so we can write this down.
Joan Laubach, 144514. And I'm kind of building on Effie's thing. I think that our annual meeting was a bit of a missed opportunity. What I wanted to see was a more positive focus. Talk about what's been done in the last year. One of the things that I've been involved with is the Showa Day of Service. You missed an opportunity not talking about Showa and what they've been doing, and this Day of Service was absolutely wonderful. I've talked to people saying, oh, I'm going to do that, and people say, what is it? So it would have been nice at the annual meeting, because I think we had a day of service just a few days after the meeting. Talk about how many activities there are in Sun City. Once again, focusing on the positive. I think we need new marketing. Marketing ourselves as the oldest and cheapest just isn't cutting it. If you look at Disneyland, their marketing is not, we're the oldest and cheapest. If I went on to Tinder to market myself for a date, I would not say I was the oldest and cheapest. So I think we need to bring a sense of fun to Sun City. I think that's what we moved here for. Bring back the Hawaiian shirts. Nothing says fun about a navy polo. So, or some funny t-shirt, something like that. Was thinking maybe we could do something where people write a positive post in the Independent, why I love living in Sun City.
then we could draw names from that and people could win stuff. We could come up with I Love Sun City flags that we could put in our front yards. Give people a positive impression when they come here. And in that vein, get rid of the stupid signs. I would expect those signs if I went into a prison. That's something we all learned in kindergarten, was we were not to abuse each other. When I walk into a club room that has 5 of these signs, it makes me wonder, should I be wearing a Kevlar vest to the next meeting? So I know you've told us that when they spontaneously disintegrate, you will replace them. I will have disintegrated before then. So thank you.
I would just add that there is an effort to look at those signs. We have drafted some alternative signs. We have looked at the budget to replace those so that we don't necessarily have to wait for them to spontaneously disintegrate. Was that it? So I guess something in the future is likely to happen. Final wording on that is still being worked out, but we have heard those concerns and feel like perhaps something a little more softer and gentler would be appropriate. So we're going to work on that. Treasurer Borski.
Hi. First of all, thank you for the humor. It's so much fun to come to this meeting and hear it. We have a to-do list. Unfortunately, we have fallen into, this is the way we've always done it, and we're trying to break free from that. We have a to-do list that's probably longer than, well, I know it's longer than my arm, of things we want to do. So if you have all these wonderful ideas and you want to be part of it, please let us know that. We know marketing needs some help, and we appreciate all the help we can possibly get. I have one question that popped into my mind as you were talking about do things differently. We talk about the financial reports being hard to understand. Would anybody be interested in a financial-only meeting where we would explain what the financial reports say? Okay, there's 3 of you, 4 or 5 of you. Thank you.
Mr. President, Dr. Collins. Yes, thank you so much for that. That makes me want my strawberry social event next year even more. So, thank you.
No. Number 2?
Number 2.
Okay.
Dave Clausen, 154961. I think this is fun. I like that. I really enjoyed the previous 2 ladies who got up here. And I have heard people come to Sun City to have fun. They're not wanting to work anymore. It's a city of volunteers. We still need the volunteers, but we can have fun while we're volunteering. So that's the way I see it. And I want to first thank each of you for your service. And I learned today that I can actually send an email to Board of Directors
At suncityaz.org.
at suncityaz.org rather than sending them to each of you separately. That's probably the better way, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So thank you for that. I wanted to say a couple of things. One, I already asked the question about the mountain view, and that's a little more clear. It's still in the Triarch's and last architecture's hands, but so that I'm looking forward to that. In the finances, the idea of having a PowerPoint presentation that takes maybe year-end 2024 or maybe, 2024, and do a PowerPoint presentation that would actually explain, as I can get with you later to talk about this, but you can have a narrator, a face of somebody explaining the financials, and it would be on available to anybody on the web, and it wouldn't explain every month because it's just a tutorial. It's basically Finance 101. John Fast had this idea some years ago, or some time ago, and mentioned it to me, and I thought, wow, that would work really well. So that's a way of helping non-financial people understand finances, because in finances, you have, in a family budget, my wife does this, I worked in finance and accounting for 30 years, and I got tired of it, so I don't love to do it. My wife is much better at the finances. She likes anything with dollar signs on it that belongs to us, so she does that very well. But in our family budget, you have a budget. You know what how much money you come in every month. And ours, fixed incomes is really true, right? So fixed incomes, and then you have outgoes, monthly outgoes, quarterly outgoes, annual outgoes, and you have to budget that. But that's just one aspect. That's just the budget. Then you have real life that happens, and you have a flat tire, you have a car repair, and it's beyond budget. You didn't budget for it, so you have to explain that stuff. And the key is actual revenues, actual expenses, and the actual over-under deficit or profit. Thank you.
Number 3.
Yep, I forgot that there was a 0, so sorry about that, Dave. Give me a minute. Steve Oakes, 115074. Hard act to follow, Joan. That was good humor. Not that I'm surprised from Joan. Okay, good morning, board. Recently, Bill Pearson, our historian, gave a class about selling of Sun City and the early days of fun here, to Joan's point. He provided many lessons of the past. I recall one slide that explained how it was John Meeker who made the, quote, difference in making Sun City the standout exception of the 60s and 70s. The slide said Meeker believed in, quote, bigger and better, end quote. Hence, we got the lakes, Lakeview Center, the largest enclosed pool of the time in Arizona at Sundial, and Bell Rec Center. Mr. Meeker knew to attract people, he had to build the resort-style living dream of the country. Mr. Meeker did the hard management work and was a real leader of the community in his time. You, the board, recently also were faced with tough choices and doing the hard management work of taking the first step to make Sun City and RCSC a better place. I'm referring to change of management. Change of management naturally creates anxiety, but I believe you did it for the benefit of us, the members. Good on you for doing the tough job. I think most understand why you did it and now wonder what is next. This phase of management change is likely the most crucial. There are lessons of the past that we need to apply. 1, we need to use our community strengths, such as experienced management members of our community, to help select this new leader. We need to go outside our current staff and use a professional recruiter that understands the challenges of public administration management. From what I read last year, Sun City West, our neighbor, and a John Meeker creation, went to a recruiter in Sacramento, California. That also provides human resources assistance to municipalities. The recruiter consultant created a colorful brochure that rivals the ones shown in the Sun City's museum that were created in the 60s and 70s to sell Sun City originally. This brochure directed to attract high-caliber, recreation experience, financially astute, forward-thinking management. We need to pay current salary, thanks Preston for pointing that, amount to acquired leadership. The brochure clearly stated the position paid between $200,000 and $250,000 annually. Now, while some
cringe at this amount. It is current reality. To some of us, we may think, wow, that is unreasonably higher than what I made. Well, it is not, if you allow me, it is not about what we did some 5 to 15 years ago. Wages have increased considerably after COVID. So I'll shorten this by saying, use a professional recruiter, please, and use members in an ad hoc committee or working group with HR and management selection experience to help us choose the right person for our community, for our future. Thanks to all of you.
Number 4.
Good morning. My name is Phil Gilson, 105-226. And I wanted to talk about the signs, but Joan stole my thunder, the warning signs. The other thing I'd like to make a request of you is I go to Duffyland Dog Park virtually every day when it's open. And we're allocated 5 hours per month for maintenance of the dog park. And it's, I'm going to guess, 2.5, maybe 3 acres with a number of trees. And that's not enough time. If you happen to drive by and look at it, you'll still notice that the majority of the olive trees are dying, at least half are dying. It just needs more time than 5 hours a month. And a question I have with regards to salaries, early on, Mr. President, when you mentioned those, I looked up some of the other Sun Cities, and they list the high 3 wage earners in Sun Cities, different Sun Cities. Sun City Grand lists a high 3. And I'm curious as to why that's not available to us here. I have no idea, but I would just, that's a question. Thank you.
Well, our policy has not been to disclose individuals' salaries and their personnel reviews or whatever. And there's a difference between us, which are a Title 10, versus those who are Title 33s. And there are certain, as I understand it, additional disclosure requirements if you're a Title 33 community that do not apply to a Title 10 community. So there is, but I'm still somewhat concerned about broadcasting personal information that I feel is confidential about an individual's salary or their performance reviews, et cetera. Those are things that I think the board is charged with dealing with, and we've tried to do that. It's been a rocky road. I'm not going to argue with anybody about that, but we've turned the page on this situation and we're moving forward, and we intend to use an outside consultant as far as searching for a new general manager. Salary will be a concern, so don't have sticker shock about that, but we do have an exciting community here with tremendous resources, and I really feel we can attract and retain outstanding personnel. We need to look hard for it. We need to market it well, and as a group, we need to take a deep breath. As Mr. Oakes was suggesting, it might cost us a little more than we've paid in the past to get the kind of expertise and experience that we're looking for and that we deserve. So we're going to keep moving forward on this. As we mentioned earlier today, this is probably something that's going to go out later this week or early next week as far as posting that job. But we will get there, and I'm certain that we will find eventually the right person for this facility. Next.
Number 5, please. And if you know your number is next, folks, if you could come up and sit in the front seats, that'll help reduce the delay time between speakers. Thank you.
Good morning, Lori Ellingson, 133335. I actually have 3 areas of concern, and I'm not sure if I'll get all 3 in my 3 minutes. So the first one does have to do with the signs. Here it says on February 10th, reword the will not tolerate sign comments to make them more welcoming. The action was when signs get replaced, we will review the wording, and that was completed on February 12th. So I was recently in Sun City West playing in a 4-day tennis tournament. While I was there, they handed out a swag bag to all of the participants. In that bag, and hold on one quick sec. I received a Kind bar. A Kind bar is an energy bar. The brand name is Kind. Attached to it, it says, the posses of Sun City West are the epitome of kindness in protecting our community. And in the bottom, it says, be kind. My little, who's videotaping me? If you can zoom in on the be kind.
There's no camera for that.
Then, in their office, here's a sticker. The sticker says, be kind. They have these everywhere in Sun City West. They also have business cards everywhere you go. So if you have a question, if you need something answered, this is easily available. So they can go directly to that person and say, can you please answer my question? Can you please help me understand the who, the why, the what, the where? So if we were able to incorporate something like that, it would help so that we don't have people coming here to try to get the answers that they should be able to get directly from the situation that they're in. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Susan Bjork, 112650. And this is not due to your commentary at the beginning, Tom. I was actually going to say thank you for responding to my email. I know it took a little bit, but I appreciate the effort that you took to explain. I will say that, I'm looking forward here to continuing our dialogue. And just so you know, at one of the meetings you said, I'll get with you. I understand you're busy, and so that's why I kept sending you the emails to say, reminder, 2024 financials. So relative to that, though, I do think it's important. I know it's not something that we've done in the past to provide an explanation around the net deficit excess figure before depreciation. However, I think because that is typically, it's the same as EBITDA, that's typically what experts would look at to determine the overall health of an organization, financial health. So I think it goes without saying that we might want to explain that number. Because I'm still wondering, and I know we're moving forward, but I'm still wondering what the heck happened to the 2.6 million excess from 2023 and then the $300,000 deficit that was shown last year. Where did that, where did that money go? What happened to it? And what are we doing moving forward as a plan to ensure that we don't get, I know that you took it on your shoulders, you've said that multiple times, President Foster, but it can't just be you. So that kind of plan should be shared with the stakeholders. And I think last month it was evident that you pulled back on expenses. So what expenses are we pulling back on? We don't want to get into the deferred maintenance situation again. So that's all for you. I'd like you to consider that a definition or explanation around that figure, given it is a typical figure that is looked at by experts. President Kais, Director Kais. So with regard to you, I tried to address the approach to this bylaw committee, and now it's called a working group, which people don't understand that. So I think a communication around that would be good. Hey, we're calling it a working group because X, Y, Z. We're not going by what is typically in the bylaws ad hoc committee. If you would be forthright in that, there might not be all these questions. If the communication came out, there might not be all these questions. I asked a simple question, and I know which question irritated you, but it's rightfully asked because of several things that I could raise, and you know what those are. But the bottom line is I asked to know who I would be presenting to, and you just evaded the question 3 times. I recognize, so you're not going to let me finish.
No, I'm going to give you the 3 minutes everybody gets, but I will answer your questions.
Okay, I will go back. Okay. I'll come back because I want to say it.
Let me answer that.
Go ahead, Secretary Kais.
First off, we decided to call it a working group because it's a group of people that we have a single goal in mind. It's not, we didn't want to go by committee rules. We wanted to be able to work at this as just a group of people trying to improve our bylaws. We thought that would improve the flow of information, and it just seemed a better fit for what we were doing. I woke up about 2 o'clock this morning thinking about your question about members and that. And my preference would be to not, okay, let me work on this because I've agonized over this a lot. As members can see, you know, at the exchanges and board meetings and on social media, there is a lot of grief that is given to us. Unfortunately, we had a board member resign because of that. My reluctance in giving out the names of the working group is that I'd rather let them to be able to do their jobs and to do the important business of reworking our bylaws without being subject to the possible grief that we go through. I just think I thought that it was a protection for the group of people. Now, going along with that, to make sure that we're all on board, I did send an email out to the working group asking them if they would be okay to release their names. And I'm going to go with whatever that group decides, because that's how we want to work. The group is the majority decides, and that's the way we'll move forward. So based on what the feedback I get from the working group, we'll decide on whether I'm going to release those or not. Those are my thoughts on it.
I'm being facetious.
Thank you.
You understand that. I mean, everybody knows who's on the other side.
Okay.
Go ahead and move forward.
Number 6, please.
Is there a
number 7,
6?
sorry.
Tina Metters, 168937, and I have a totally different request. 99th Avenue, south from Grand. There's real skinny little median. Is ADOT in charge of that? Are we in charge of it? Because it is just a mess. Everything's died, collapsed. The landscaping fabric is peeled up and is collecting trash and dead leaves and stuff, and I didn't know who was in charge of maybe putting some new cactus there and rocks and...
That's ADOT.
ADOT? Okay. We just call them to complain? Okay, thank you.
Director Collins, you're good? All right, thank you.
Tom?
Yes, Director Kais.
Yeah, I would just say, too, if you've got a question about the roads, SHOA has a roads and safety meeting. Actually, Director Collins is there quite a bit. They deal, a lot of times you'll have representatives from MACDOT there, and so you can speak directly to them. So that's not something that the Rec Center handles, but that is something that you can contact the MACDOT people through the roads and safety with SHOA.
Number 8.
Okay.
Number 9.
Hello. I'm Trina Espias, 140378. I've been coming, I grew up down the road from here, and I've had family members, still have family members living in Sun City. And going back to the fun, I knew when I retired, I moved away to the Northwest for 10 years for my career. And when I came, I always knew I was coming back to Sun City. This was the place to be. Quote, I told everybody, it's resort living. So I would come back every vacation when I was still working, visit my parents, get my week rec card. My parents signed me in and I could come back and they pay my daily fee. I could go work out at the gym, I could go to the pools, I could play pool, I could do whatever I wanted. And so I don't know what the current status is, but I'm a current Zumba member, and when I started to try to bring my friends again, they told me that we're at the 14-day per year. I don't know if that's changed for a guest, but my fun, my whole lifestyle for living here has changed. Like I said, I grew up here. All my friends come from outside. In fact, growing up down the street, we used to call everybody that lived here blue hairs when we were ditching school and driving to the lake. But now it's like, when I moved back here and they said, where you living? I said, Sun City. You know that, I'm a blue hair. You know, we love it out there, and I brag about our pickleball courts and our lifestyle and how snowbirds come and we all just, it's like a current vacation. My whole lifestyle has changed since the RCSC rule changed. And I don't know that this is accurate, but I was told that that came from somebody in a class that was non-member that complained, and then one person went to somebody and said, oh, well, we're gonna revert that back. They shouldn't get to have outside guests. And supposedly, this is just what they've told me, and that's why I'm here. That since it was a rule in 1970 something, so they just reverted back to it. But my fun is gone, and it makes a big difference. And because I've been coming to this community for so long, I also think we're missing a big group of people in our input. And I don't know how we do that, and I could be wrong, but I worked in high tech. I was on call 24/7. I don't want to be on high tech. I fight my technology. And so I get it. The world is gonna change and we're all gonna be on high tech. But how do you take care of the people that, like me, don't want it because it's almost like a trigger? Or the elderly who don't have a clue. And we live in a retirement community. How do we reach those people? How do we make these things fun where they want to come? They like to go to church and have ice cream and stuff. This could be another social event. But I think we have a whole population of people that's not being heard. Don't forget your, oh, thank you, hon. Thank you. Sorry for the passion.
Treasurer Borski.
Okay, to address your guests and your 12-day rule. The 12-day rule has been there forever, or 14-day rule, I'm sorry. It's just never been enforced. Now, our dilemma is our members pay a fee every year. Okay, so anyway, we pay this fee and we want our members to be able to use the facilities. There are some instances where there are so many guests coming in that our members get pushed out. So it's a fine balance, and we are looking at it. I can't tell you right now off the top of my head. I think it was around 150,000 in guest fees. I could be a little off, but somewhere in that area. So we are looking at it, and we're wondering, are our guest fees the right amount? Should the 14 days be there? It's a policy that's being reviewed, and we hopefully will make some changes on it.
Yeah.
Days per person, or
Excuse me.
14 guests per year?
14 days per guest per year.
Okay. We're up to 9 or 10?
We're up to 10.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Alan, thank you. So with regard to people who either choose not to use technology or are technology, are challenged by technology, we are very aware of that. Everything we do, everything I think about is with that in mind. Particularly for the people who either can't through a specific accessibility challenge, or for people who just don't want to learn something new. You know, they're at the point in their life, they just don't want to learn something new. I think about that all the time, and we talk about it, and we plan. That is why there are paper copies of the Tri-Art presentation in every center for people to look at. It is specifically for the people who don't. Now, with regard to the shut-ins, the people who don't leave their home because they cannot, I would like to encourage the membership. We all know a neighbor like that. Share what you know. Sit down with them, walk them through what they haven't had the opportunity, because we can't, it is not feasible to be able to send out every single piece of information in paper format to the membership. It never has been, and it never has been done. But what can help, though, is neighbors helping neighbors. It's actually going to that neighbor's house and sitting down and saying, hey, did you know this? I do that. I walk along our back patios and say, hey, wanted to share with you what came up today. What are your thoughts on it? So that we can bring that member information back in. So we are aware, we are cognizant, and we do take steps to try and meet those needs.
Number 10. Thank you. Then number 11. We'll hold it.
Tad Daughters, 117436. I just wanted to say thank you for keeping us updated on the Mountain View project. I'm very much interested in it as a member of the players, and I really do appreciate your keeping us informed. Thank you.
Number 12.
Robert Court, 141991. I know we got a bylaws group that's looking at bylaws. So a couple things I'd like to have them kind of keep in mind. Article 8, Section 3 says the directors shall have the power to adopt bylaws not in conflict with the Articles of Incorporation. They can't write a bylaw that's in conflict. Article 8, Section 5 talks about our equality, the equality of our privileges and our rights, and the fact that we have equal responsibilities. And those responsibilities are the assessment fees. I know it's the assessment fees because the very next line says that the bylaw shall provide a method for determining the assessment fees to be paid by the members. They're supposed to be equal per members, not per household. I've argued this for the last 8 years. The definition of equal is identical in monetary and mathematical value. What did they do with the bylaws? Well, first they grandfathered a bunch of people in 2003, and the first statement they made was they're going to pay per person at half the rate, which automatically implies it's not equal per member. And then they did it per property, which doesn't work out because if there's 2 people in one property and 1 in another, that's not going to be equal per member for what they pay. So one of the things that's been floated is giving 2 passes to the single deeded owner, and that doesn't address the responsibility, the equality of the responsibility that you're supposed to pay. That responsibility is the assessment fees. Another thing to keep in mind is the Sun City demographics have changed a lot since those bylaws were written in 2003. In fact, our 2020 census has us at 47% single, 52% married, 47 point something and 52. So things have changed a lot since this bylaw has been written, and it's time to update that bylaw. And I'm asking, like, what is the committee, can this be added to this committee? And what can be done to fix this bylaw so that we're all on even ground of these things that we got to perpetually pay for every single year. I don't care if it's Biden economics or Trump tariffs, this crap is going to go up every single year, and we got to pay it, and it should be equal per every member. Should be paying exactly the same amount. And I want to know what can be done and if that can be added to your committee to discuss it. That's what I have for this.
Go ahead.
Sir, that will be part of our discussions. That's all I can say now, because we'll be talking about it, and we'll let you know when we get through it. I can't say we're going to do one thing or the other because we haven't had those discussions yet.
Okay, this has been brought up for like years. I mean, it's been brought up a lot of times over the years.
Thank you,
I understand
sir.
that.
Okay.
Okay.
Number 13.
Mary Dolman Shopper, 128442. Oh, a couple of things. The financial stuff I read here is on the list twice, whether it's footnotes or whether it is a further explanation of where the financials are. And yes, I have financial experience. What I would be looking for in that single category would just be like a 2 or 3, maybe 4 paragraph, little paragraph, narrative of this is where we are. Are we above our, are we within our budget? What are the major variances? I personally can go down to the, the sand and the rock on the beach and all of this for the granularity. But I think in total for Sun City, most people would just like to know, are we within budget, or why were we $75,000 at some point over budget or under budget, or we have $600,000 that we didn't bring in, what happened? But just a paragraph underneath the financials, that's a suggestion. There was mention of professional recruiter. I would dare say that if there was a request for, if you are interested in hiring professional recruiting for Sun City, please provide your name and your information to whoever. We have a lot of people here who are retired, who have those connections of who to go to and be able to get the professional recruiter for salary surveys that are of Arizona. Otherwise, you end up with salary surveys from the East Coast, from the West Coast, from the Midwest, and you end up paying probably about $120,000 to $150,000 more than what you need to, because we've got to be level with what this market pays. And then I had a third one, which was really good, but I can't find it. Shows that I'm still a human being.
Didn't have anything to do with me wearing a chicken costume, did it?
No, but I think we could get Mr. Collins a nice dog. He could be the pooch on, the pooch for everybody. Anyway, thank you.
All right, Vice President Edison.
Mary, you had asked me either before the last exchange meeting or before the last board meeting about the increase in fees from the fire department for them coming out to the house. At a recent Leadership Coalition meeting, I did bring it up. I will tell you that the fire department has plans to communicate out what their process will be, why it's happening, and what steps you can take potentially to remediate some of that cost. So I didn't ignore it, I did raise it. It's just, it's outside the purview of RCSC, but being as I'm seeing you here now, I just wanted to share with you what I had found out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I never feel ignored by Thank you.
Tom.
Treasurer Borski.
Mary, when you were talking about major variances and deficits, are you talking line item? Or, I mean, do you want to know we overspent personnel in this department, but?
No, I'm not looking for the granularity. It is just,
The general.
if we know that we are overspent or we have not brought in the dollars that we expected, just a single line item.
Okay.
I can go nuts with numbers. I can pull that out of the information provided myself. But just a layman's explanation. Thank you, Mr. Ruff. A layman's paragraph of this is where we are.
Okay. Got that, Kevin?
I was going to say, I guess I wasn't going to use the adjective layman's because I was already slapped around for that. But the attempt in the management report is to respond to exactly what you raised. But I would not necessarily say it was in layman's language.
Maybe we're just not plain enough.
Yeah.
Maybe we still have too much professional gobbledygook in there, and maybe we need to give it to an 8th grader to read it and then tell us where they're lost so that we can see where that is.
I volunteer.
She's our 8th grader.
Number 14, please.
Brenda Frank, 149988, and I want to start by thanking you guys all because I know that you're spending hours and hours and hours, and a lot of it is just people poking at you. Where's this? Where's that? How come I don't have, this didn't go my way, that didn't go my way? But that kind of raises a question because I know you're getting a barrage of emails and phone calls and whatnot. Do you guys have a support staff that goes through those emails and can answer some of the routine run-of-the-mill? You do? Okay. So maybe that's a volunteer opportunity for somebody who has general knowledge of Sun City and has lived here for a long time. Maybe they can kind of sort through some of those routine things. I'm not talking about, decisions for the board to make. I mean, just those run-of-the-mill questions that you get. So I'm just throwing that out there, not that I necessarily want to volunteer to do that, because I honestly don't, I'm still learning about Sun City. I've only been here for a couple of years, and so that's wouldn't be my strong point yet. I do have a background in HR, and I'm concerned about the wage surveys. Looking at the recruiting announcements on the board, most of them give a pay range, and the ranges that I'm seeing are low even for Arizona. So I'm not sure when our last wage survey was, whether it was just Arizona, whether it was surrounding states. But I know that for example, our landscapers on the golf courses are being paid noticeably less than what other golf courses pay in Arizona, in the Sun City area and Maricopa County. So I'm not sure how accurate those, or if any information, if anything was done with the information. I'm running out of time. I too agree with the Hawaiian shirts or tie-dye or something, because a lot of people wear Navy shirts, Navy polos. I mean, this is, So sometimes it's hard to know who's an employee to ask a question, so I like the idea. I know that's more, quote, professional, but it's harder to identify employees sometimes. And I think that was it. Thank you.
Director Collins.
Yeah, I hear your point with the shirts, but I mean, maybe if they had cactuses on them, it would be better.
As long as they're not chicken costumes.
Again with the chicken.
Moving on to number 15.
Oops, sorry.
Stand by.
As far as the shirts, can you imagine going to work every day and wearing a Hawaiian shirt? I know some of our staff don't even want to ever see a Hawaiian shirt again, much less wear one, but we can look at something. But this gave us an opportunity when you asked about support staff. Marcia is our support, she's our coordinator, and she does all the reports, and she gets everything out, and she herds cats, all 9 of us. She gets us in meetings, lets us know where we belong and where we should be and who has to be there, and does a remarkable job. And I just want to say thank you.
I think we got to look at a raise for her.
Now number 15.
Let me check the budget first. Okay, go ahead.
Bill Pearson, 133438. I stopped by to pick up a folder that I had given to a gentleman who wanted to be on the bylaws committee. It's from 1993 forward to about the time we fired the Legal Affairs Committee. You know, the board members never used to do the bylaws. The Legal Affairs Committee, attorneys and retired judges that were in existence for 25 years or so, reviewed every bylaw and made recommendations to the board, who then passed them more often than not, than having 4 of you sitting in a room overseeing a bylaws committee, or 2 board members as chairman of another committee. You talk about how much work you're doing, it's self-inflicted, guys. There's a community filled with people who would love to give you a hand if you took them seriously. And I don't say that with any disrespect. In 2006, the RCSC made a decision to become internal in structure, in validity of the membership, and we've just kind of fuddled it back down to the point where we are today. Now, I just wrote, you know, the measure of every effort is really where we are. 2024, by many of our standards, wasn't a very good year. And so consequently, were we successful from 2006 to today? I would argue not. $20 million deferred maintenance, technology, pure crap, golf infrastructure that didn't work very well, no leadership building in the community as we evolved to the point where we are today, and you're fighting like the dickens to claw your way back. But you can't do it alone. There's 8 of you, soon to be 9, but you're assigning all kinds of stuff to yourselves. And then going, hey, we're spread really thin. Well, no, really? You're spreading yourselves thin. There's people in this room, in this community, that want you to succeed. I want you to succeed. I got out of bed at 3 in the morning as well and wrote a letter. I know, 30 seconds. I wrote a letter for a talk that complimented you on what you did with the Mountain View session, because it was the best damned meeting I've been to in the 22 years I've lived here. There was nothing that was off the table. The answers were open and abundant, and you're still continuing it, Chris. Kudos. That's the way this community has to be run. Don't be insular. Don't say, hell no, we don't need you. Open your doors, open your arms, and let people in. You'll be a whole lot better off for it. Thank you.
Well, I would say one of the things we've learned is stakeholders are important, and decisions should not be made without as many stakeholder opinions as possible. And as what Triarch is attempting to do with leadership from the board here is, let's get that input first before any decisions get made that can't be reversed. So I hear you, Bill. I think we've heard essentially what you were saying several months ago, and we've tried to move down in that particular direction as far as getting as much input from the membership as we can. But it takes time. And where I would welcome as many people bringing their expertise as they can, unfortunately, sometimes there is a line in the sand as far as liability is concerned as to how much I could accept from input from an individual who used to be a licensed and practicing architect. I might not be able to accept their pro bono work because of liability issues. However, so it's not that we're not looking for assistance, but there are lines that we have to be careful of. Unfortunately, it all goes back to liability issues. So, yes, Director Gray.
Thank you. And one of the things in fact, the legal committee, which I had heard about and found out it was discontinued multiple years ago, I've actually talked with Tom a little bit about that, but we did open this up to other people to come into the bylaw committee. And I don't, as far as I know, and Preston, you may correct me if that's different, we didn't get any attorneys that said, here, let me help you. So we are reaching out to our members. We can't make attorneys or former judges say, I'll serve. So we took from the people that were actually willing, and we actually went out and pinged a few others because we didn't really get that many. And so we are not holding people away from serving. We're not trying to say, we don't want you. We've actually said, are you interested? And so we can't control whether people are interested or not, but I just want to make people aware that we don't have this us against you mentality. I haven't seen it from any board. This is my first year. I haven't seen any of that from any of the board members I'm serving with. But when we open it up and offer, are you interested in this? We can only deal with who replies back to us. So again, I think that we have been doing that, and I would even entertain if we got enough attorneys that have an interest, at least communicating or talking about the possibility of how a legal committee could benefit us as a corporation.
Okay. Right.
Number 16, please.
Milt Lebsack, 130662. I wasn't going to speak today, but this is my last opportunity for about 6 months. So first of all, before the meeting, I tried to talk to each of the individual board members and say, I respect what you're doing. I understand the amount of time and effort that you're putting into this, and I think you're on the right track as far as listening to people and trying to do the best job you can. From a personal standpoint, I've been up here many times over the last 10 years, and I'm very impressed by the decorum of this meeting in comparison with the vast majority of meetings that I've been to in the past. And outside of meetings, people have referred to me as Mr. Jovial. And when anybody does that, my wife immediately says, that's not the person that I know. So I tend to be more serious, particularly when I have a point of view. And I'm not all that serious generally. The only thing that I wanted to speak to in regards to what other people have said today, it's pretty obvious to me that the vast majority of the concerns involve finances. whether it's assessment fees, whether it's budgets, whether it's single membership fees as opposed to per household, salaries of employees. Now, in that regard, the one thing that stands out to me is that it seems to me that a standard procedure, anytime you're advertising for a job position, that there is a salary range that's included in that announcement. I'm not asking for specific salaries of each individual employee, but I think at least providing information of the range of salaries for these employees would alleviate many of the concerns that people have. Rather than just exact dollar figures, at least indicate a range of salaries for each, particularly for the most important positions. And I want to personally wish Mr. Dormeyer success as an interim manager, and I hope he will be one of the candidates for the final position. And I'd like to say in conclusion that my wife and I have been here for 10 years. We love Sun City. We intend to come back for as many years as we can in the fall and winter months. Thank you.
Did you wish to respond?
Number 17, please. Has everybody that wanted to talk had their chance to go through the first time? Okay, then number 10, I believe you're up. Lori?
Good to be number 10. But I don't think I'm referred to Bo Derek. So the other thing I wanted to bring up, and Director Collins kind of pointed to it, we do appreciate the fact that you are resurfacing the courts at pickleball, and we feel like poor little tennis. We're the stepchild, we're ignored. These are photos that were taken in December 13th, 2020. So 4.5 years, 5 years ago, of the Lakeview tennis courts. I was on the Building and Infrastructure, the Properties Committee back then. I brought the condition of the tennis courts to their attention, and 4.5, 5 years later, nothing's been done. So it just makes common sense that while they're resurfacing the pickleball courts at Mountain View, they could do the tennis courts at the same time. And then also resurface the courts over at Lakeview as well. It's been over 10 years that anything has been done with the Lakeview courts, and saying that, oh, you don't need those courts because you're not using them, that's not valid. We're not using them because they're not usable. Here is the SAC plan recommendations, comparisons of Plan M, Plan A, B, and C. All three under tennis, removed, 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 removed. My question is why? We were told by the president of the RCSC back in 2020 that every single club that was affected with Mountain View remodel had been contacted. That is not true. Our director, our board president of the tennis club was never consulted. So I think it's very, very important that when you are designing and talking to Tri-Arc, that tennis is put back into the picture. Thank you very much.
Okay, Lori, perhaps you didn't hear at the earlier discussion, while that discussion did not include the Lakeview courts, it did include the Mountain View courts. So there is going to be some work done there. So hopefully that will be satisfactory for the tennis group. At this point in time, there's only so many dollars to go around, and frankly, the Lakeview ones, as you note, are in a point of situation where that would take more dollars than I have right now. So we'll try to do what we can at Mountain View so those are safe and playable, but Lakeview will have to wait.
Susan Bjork, 112-650. I was only going to use up a few seconds more before, but my name isn't Steve Oakes. So, but now I'm going to use up probably a little more because I've got some additional things to say. So, Preston, back to our dialogue. All you had to do was explain what you explained today, but instead you just evaded the question, and then you came back and said, we're done with this conversation.
Mr. President.
That wasn't right.
A point of order here. This is supposed to be asking a question, not carrying out against one director.
I am a little confused, Susan, by what your intentions are here.
My intentions are, I asked a question and it wasn't answered. And here you provided an answer this morning, but you could have simply done that to me in the email. But further, the other question was, you know, Rick, you said you reached out and you were welcoming everybody, but you also forgot that you ostracized one group because of the appearance of bias. And how do you, Preston, plan to be unbiased in this new working group, which is, you know, confusing?
Treasurer Borski.
Susan, Preston didn't decide to not use people that had submitted motions. That was not his decision. That was a board decision. I supported that as well. Mm-hmm. I felt that if we brought members into that committee that had previously submitted motions, it would provide the appearance of approving those motions over other people. Right or wrong, that's the decision that was made, and that's why those people are not on that committee.
Yeah, well, I think we can learn from this that there could have been a better way to do it, exclude them from the motions that they proposed. I didn't want to be on the committee, so it doesn't affect me, but it still speaks to the approach and what the appearance is out here, and that's really why I'm up here. But relative to Preston, there's been several things that have demonstrated that he doesn't want to listen to members.
Okay, we're not going to pick on board members anymore.
Yeah, well.
We've been there, we've lost a board member because of that, and who was a very good friend, and I feel very bad for her.
Run for the board. You're welcome to come up here, put your name in the hat.
We're just not want my help.
Okay,
so
folks,
here,
this is not
so
productive.
Let me just say one last thing.
Okay, this is it, right here.
Well,
go ahead.
There's two, but I do know, over my experience here, I'm new generation, and I think that's a problem. Because I don't feel that I'm listened to, because a lot of the issues I brought up, and then they become, you know, they fester, and you know, I can name several of them. The marionette chairs, I brought those up. The punch cards, all the way through to those signs, and now you're finally listening, so I feel like I'm not listened to. As far as the compensation for the individual, yes, you're right. That was my profession. There are surveys and there are differentials for the different states. I brought that up at the SAC community. Hey, what surveys are you using? Because the survey is very important. And again, you know, so I'm just going to stop because that's something I learned today is all these things come full circle and you wonder why, you know, I never used to be irritated before. I would bring up things and they're not, so now I'm at this point. So it's very unfortunate, but apparently member feelings don't matter.
Okay.
Bill Pearson, 133438. I normally don't rebuttal because there's no value in it, but I'll tell you this. The decision to exclude people that took the time to submit motions to the annual membership meeting seems illogical to me because they took the time to go through the bylaws to make recommendations. Had you made a decision to exclude them based on some other criteria other than they were actually well-versed enough to make them, I might have bought it. Yeah, I don't like him because or I don't like her because, but you just said, no, we're not taking any of them. And then the argument is, Rick, you and I are friends, but the argument is, yeah, but we invited all these people. Really? I don't remember even seeing anything about you forming a group. And the next thing is I'm reading you got a group now. Well, actually I heard it was a committee and then I heard it was a group. And so, you know, we talk about communication. We've talked about every board member I've ever known ran on to what? I'm going to improve communication. Well, there's 32,000 people. How are you reaching them? Are there no attorney? And I don't care if they're an attorney. I just mentioned the attorneys, the Legal Affairs Committee, because that was the nucleus of writing bylaws or changing bylaws. It doesn't matter. But if you think you're the only guys being men and women, that have the solutions, you're going to fail. I can tell you that since 2006, we said the only ones that can have the answers are those that live in the boardroom. And you invite people in and you get all the feedback and then it kind of falls on deaf ears. And people go, oh, why should I even show up? You know this. Your bylaws say this. You don't have to listen to anything a committee says. They're recommendations and recommendations only. But if you don't listen to them, you know what happens? You drive people away. You push people away. You create an environment where they see you as the leadership and everybody else is just the underarm. You're trying to change that. I recognize it. I give you all the credit in the world for it. But trust the membership. Nobody wants you to fail. Nobody. It's our community. It's your community, but it's all of ours. And unless or until you realize that, you're going to struggle because you're going to keep putting more and more and more on your backs. And at some point, the load gets so heavy, you quit or you give up. Or you're just thankful, like I was, to have my term end because nobody ever listened to me. So thank you.
Tom?
Director Gray?
Yeah, thank you. And I agree. We're friends, Bill, and I appreciate my conversations with you. I appreciate listening to you. But one of the things I also have in my background is I've worked with groups that we've had bylaw committees and people on the committee were on the committee because they had multiple bylaws and they were pushing it. So I've seen the agenda. And I'll be blunt. One of my biggest concerns is if we have board members, and I haven't followed it closely, but I can say I think we've had board members on our board that had their own personal agenda. And I don't think it helps our community. And I don't know if I ever said I'm running to communicate more. I have said that I'm running to make sure that we do what's best for our community. I don't have a personal agenda. And so, yeah, there's a lot of people and they're passionate. They have their bill. They're going to be heard. They're going to give an opportunity to be heard. But when you start getting that bias in, it's I see it this way and I want it this way, that's not a good attitude or trait to have as a board member or a committee member. We have to come to whatever we do to say what's best for the community, not how I see it. And so I think, again, from my experience, I've had to endure through some of that stuff, and I've seen some pretty bad bylaw changes because of that agenda, and because they were so forceful and aggressive, and so many other members just backed away, that it produced a bad situation as I view it. So whether it's a committee member or a board member, I think it's crucial to not have an agenda other than what's good for our community. And if we can all come to that, I think we'll have better committees and better boards. But again, I appreciate, we're going to always have a different perspective. And those people that have put in motions, they're passionate about that. I understand that. I'm glad for that. But you know, and again, I also know being in public service, whether it's in the legislature or on a board, you're never going to have everybody agree with you. So again, I think that for my focus, and I truly, honestly believe that it's the focus of our other board members is what's best for our community.
Mr. President.
Director Collins.
Yes, and I think you guys can all remember the last time the bylaws were worked on and they were going to be passed, and it came down to a board member with an agenda saying, if this gets in there, I'm going to make sure the whole package fails. And it did fail. So that's kind of what he's saying, you know, the personal agendas, they don't work. They're not in your best interest. They're not in our best interest. You got to come up here and you got to listen to everyone. And sometimes you're not going to like what we come up with, but you have to listen to everyone and you have to do what's best for 32,000 people.
I guess, Mary, just before you jump in, I understand the frustration that Mr. Pearson and Ms. Bjork just expressed about their concern that perhaps their suggestions or opinions fell on deaf ears. And I would say they did not fall on deaf ears, but the wheels turn slower, perhaps. I'm driving a Volkswagen and you guys are in Maseratis, okay? And I can't go at the speed you're at. So it's not that we're not listening. It's not that we're not trying to move things forward. But if you're paying attention, there were a number of things that prevented us from doing other things in the speed perhaps that you had hoped for. But if you notice, a lot of those decks have been cleared now. And we're moving forward on a different plane. There's different folks here involved and taking charge. I'm hoping that Mr. Dearmeyer did not lose all the blood in his head when he was suggested to go forward with the general managers, but not trying to be facetious, but we are trying to move forward, and we are trying to get this done in the best interest of Sun City, as Director Gray was alluding. But it does take time, and you just can't, you can't turn it that fast. We are going to get there. I pledge to you we will, and I pledge to you that this board will pay attention and that this board will look to the stakeholders, you in particular, as those having good input and good ideas that need to be considered. But it takes time. It just can't turn around on a dime. So please bear with us. We are getting there. You're seeing that slowly and surely, but it does take a little bit of time. Anyone else on the board here before Mary jumps in? All right, Mary.
Take it away. Mary Dahlman Shopper, 128442. The purpose of my being up here is because of the bylaw committee. But first I'm going to mention this. I now understand why it's taken so long, years, over a decade, to get the PAC resolved. Where's it going to be? How much it's going to cost? All the rest. Or maybe we should do it this way, or here's plan 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 or whatever. Because even with the bylaw committee, or group, or whatever you want to call it, the group of people that have been put together to take a look at the bylaws, let the people do the work that they have been hired for, even if it's involuntary. Because they need to be focused, or they will never get done. So, for someone who comes up to the dais here and speaks their mind about bylaw 5 or bylaw 8 or 9 or 12 or whatever it is, let the committee do their work. Submit that as something to be reviewed when the committee is done, to see if these motions are incorporated, if any of them still stand after all the work is done. That's like you get a haircut sometimes. And the final thing is that it's combed through to make sure that everything is set the way it should be. The motions that were submitted can do the same thing. Did we incorporate, or have we decided this is not a good thing? It no longer is pertinent to what we're trying to do. But let's not beat this into the ground before we even have a chance to get it up and moving. As I've said before, been booed before, if you have an issue with something, get involved. Whether it's finances, whether it's facilities, whatever it is, get involved. Go to a committee meeting. To express what it is that should be different. And I'll give you 23 seconds back, Mr. Geis.
Thank you. Thanks, Mary. Yep. Is there anyone else that would like to speak today?
So my third issue is talking about the Ethics Committee. That I brought it up, suggested that we add that in the January exchange meeting. The notes said the election committee didn't want the name to be changed, and that issue was completed. I still believe that if we had, and we don't have to call it an ethics committee, we can call it whatever, but if we had a committee that would check into issues that were stated by the members or problems with the bylaws, that would take a lot of burden off of the board. That would take a lot of burden off of management. And there are professionals out there. There's a reason when there's a hearing why they bring in expert witnesses, because those experts are knowledgeable. So if we could have some type of a committee that would address issues right off the bat, that would take away a lot of problems. Maricopa County, on all of their cars, they have 3 words: integrity, accountability, community. If RCSC adheres to those 3 words, that's going to solve a lot of issues, and a lot of the members will be much, much happier. The board will be happier, management will be happier. So thank you.
Lori, what was the 3rd word?
Community. Integrity, accountability, and community.
So since Lori got up for a 3rd time, I just thought I'd get up too. First of all, Steve, you looked at me when you said bias. I don't have a bias. I want what's best for Sun City. I always have, and I've always presented it that way. As far as the bylaws that I submitted, I actually changed what I originally wrote in there to put some of the control back into the chair's hands, but I formulated it so that it would to return the committees to what they were meant for, and that is members' input and making sure that you get members on board by virtue of the members on the committee, and that there isn't secret things going on. I tried to address a lot of the individual issues directly with the director. I always have, and you guys know that. And when I'm continually pushed off and not responded to by the concerns I have, it brings it to this point. So again, I had nothing but the past 4 years wanting to do the best for this community, and where I'm at now is completely in a completely different situation. So.
All right, thank you. Any further? Then let me, Dave?
154. I just want to end with a positive note. This is something that's hard to do, but we don't understand necessarily what the other person is saying. We think we do, and we just don't. And I acknowledge, in fact, I trust this board, and I believe the community trusts this board, and our trust is improving. I think that's really important. I think we're going the right direction. I have this little sign in my kitchen wall that came from my wife's grandmother. It says this. It says, "I know you believe, you understand what you think I said." Okay? "But I am not sure you realize that what you heard is not what I meant." So sometimes we say some things and they don't, there's a word in there that messes it up. But I think I'm feeling a real responsibility, accountability, and community of this board and the people that come up front here. And I just think we're keep on the path, and we're doing well.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Thank you.
He left. Okay. Our next meeting of the Board of Directors will be on April 24th at 9 a.m. here at Sundial. The next exchange meeting will be May 12th at 9 a.m. again here at Sundial. And then the next annual meeting is tentatively scheduled for March 10th, 2026 at 6 p.m. here at Sundial. There being no further business and without objection, this meeting is adjourned. Don't forget to turn your phones back on. Thank you for attending.
This is a copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.